Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Fishing with Fishco. I'm your host Kevin, and in today's video I want to talk about catching my personal best bass. Stay tuned. Now first I want to preface this video with talking about my previous personal best bass. I think I caught it 4 years ago. Now, I don't know how many of you have been around since the start of my channel 2 years ago, but before I moved down to Georgia in November, I used to fish with a club called the Philadelphia Bass Busters. And we did tournaments every other Sunday, and the format was you could weigh in 10 fish, but 5 of each species. So, and only game fish. So like 5 panfish, which were crappie or perch, and like 5 bass or 5 pickerel. So that was how that was. So me and my buddy Kevin were fishing along this bank, and we stumbled upon this tree that had a bunch of crappie on it. And I was using, I think it was a 1-inch EPF swim from Eurotackle. Now that is Leo Shang, Extreme Philly Fishing's line of baits from Eurotackle. And I think I was using a float like 1.5 feet above that. And I pitched it in we were fishing along the bank, and I was looking for a school of crappie to fill out my panfish limit. And I pitched at this tree, caught a nice crappie. Second cast, another nice crappie. Third cast, another nice crappie. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna fill out my limit really quickly, and then I can start fishing for bass or pickerel or whatever. Keep in mind, this, I think it was winter time. I think it was like the beginning of December in New Jersey, and it was freezing cold. I'm almost positive it was in the 30s, like the high 30s, low 40s. Because the picture of my bass, I have a heavy jacket on, I have a whole head get up to keep me warm, and I'm pretty sure it's probably really windy too. And so I made a 4th pitch to this tree. Bobber goes down right away, just like when I was catching the crappie. I was like, oh, got another crappie. Set the hook. And I'm using 4-pound test on an ultralight rod. And immediately the line starts peeling off of my reel. And I'm like, whoop, Kev, I don't think I have a crappie. So I'm fighting this thing for about 3 or 4 minutes, and I'm thinking to myself, please don't be a catfish. Please don't be a catfish, because that would not count in the tournament. And I bring it up, and it's the biggest bass I've ever caught in my life. Kevin nets it. We start jumping, high-fiving each other. I'm like, this is awesome. And bring it back to the weigh-in, and it was 5.67 pounds. And here's a picture of it right here. And keep in mind, that was on a 1-inch EPF swim, a little paddle tail swim bait. So I'm going to tell you, big baits catch bass. Yes, they do. They do. But also, the smallest of baits could catch bass, really big fish. Because I was using a 1/32 ounce jig head, and the jig head, the hook, was probably like that big, like a size 6 hook. And the way it looked in the bass's mouth was like, why would you even eat this? Because it's not gonna do anything for you. I guess I dropped it right on his face, or he was just really pissed off that the crappie was getting all the food. And he's like, well, I'm gonna get one too. And went after it, yes. So that's how that went. So now let me talk about Sunday. So my main goal when I go out fishing, now that I'm not doing tournaments and stuff like that, a grueling like 8 or 9 hour tournament, my goal now is to beat the heat. So I wake up 4:30, 5 in the morning. I want to get to the lake by 5:45, and I want to be on the lake at 6 a.m. And I want to start fishing when you can barely see. Because honestly, in my opinion, that is actually the best time to fish. It's either really, really early in the morning before the sun goes up, before the sun comes up, or really, really late in the evening, right when the sun's going down. So I want to beat the heat. As soon as that sun comes over the treetops, I'm off that lake. As soon as a bead of sweat comes down my forehead, I'm like, whoop, put everything down, time to go. I want to get home before my whole family's awake, and I'll come home and I'll cook everyone breakfast, and my wife would be like, where are you going fishing? I'm like, I did go fishing. So anyway, so I went out and I wanted to start with some topwater. Now my best topwater spot on this lake by my house is, I go right across the lake from the boat ramp, and there's about a 300-yard stretch of bank where there's weeds coming off of the bank, and those bass will sit in those weeds and eat a bunch of bait fish and bluegill or whatever, and you can catch some nice ones. I've caught probably a couple 4s and a few 3s off of that bank using topwater and using Zoom flukes, just like pulling them through the weeds and stuff. I've caught an abundant amount of nice bass coming out of there. So I'm got the motor on full blast going across the lake. I'm not even paying attention to anything. I just happen to peek over to my right and I see a couple blow-ups simultaneously. I see one over here and one here at the same time, and then I see a couple more, and I'm like, what's going on over there? So I turn the motor and I go right, and I make a beeline right for it, and I see, the water's crystal clear, keep in mind. I see just these balls, thousands of baby shad. They're probably like this big, and I just see thousands of them just balling up to the surface, just moving all over the place. And occasionally I'll see blow up here, blow up there. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm starting here. And keep in mind, this is in the center of the lake. This is like the channel of the lake. It's about 17 feet deep right there. I'm like, I'll throw the topwater popper. And I think, my favorite popper to use is the KVD Splash It from Strike King. Mainly because not only does it pop really well and chugs, it also, you can walk the dog with it. So you don't have to use like a topwater spook or something like that. Does two things really well. You can actually walk the dog, and it's like, I'll throw it out and I'll pop it a few times, and if I don't get a strike on the initial first few pops, I'll walk it back to the boat, just so give it a little faster presentation. So I cast it out, I pop it probably 10 times, and I'm doing slow pops, and I'm bringing it over the school of bait fish that I can see on the surface, and nothing. So I decided, I'll walk it back to the boat, and nothing. So that was my first cast. This is my second cast. Take a look. There we go. Let's see if I got a nice one too. Yeah. He was feeding on the school over there. Oh, that's a nice fish too. Oh yeah, that's a nice fish. Oh man, that is a big fish. Look at this one. Oh man, come on. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That is a big fish. That is a big fish. Look at the size of that one. That is officially my PB. I don't have a scale with me, but I can tell just by holding them. That's a 6-pounder. I really got to start carrying a scale with me. Look at the size of that monster. That is a nice fish. He's going back. Oh, man. Oh, I just caught a 6-pound bass. Well, I cannot believe that just happened. I just caught a 6-pound bass, my biggest bass ever. That was crazy. But there's schooling bait fish out here, and I just cast it at one of the pods, lightly popping it, and he kind of just sucked it under. He didn't even hit it really hard. That was awesome. So I know in the video I say it's a 6-pound bass. Now I'm going to be brutally honest here. I've seen 6-pound bass caught before. Seen my partner catch a 6.5 during a tournament. I've held a 5.67 pound bass. I believe I was being generous saying that this bass was 6 pounds. I believe it was more closer to the 7-pound range, if not touching 7 pounds. Now, I know I don't have a scale, but I've seen 6-pound bass. I've seen people catch 6-pound bass. I've seen people hold 6-pound bass. And when I was holding this beast in my hands, I knew I'm gonna be generous. I'm gonna say this is a 6-pound bass because I don't have a scale. But I'm almost positive it was closer to 7. And this lake, I can tell, has giants. I've caught numerous 4s. I've caught a couple 5s. 20 minutes after I caught this bass, a kayaker was doing I think he was doing a monthly kayak tournament where I think it's like the 5 biggest bass in a single month. And he was using these, I saw him, he was using these swim baits that were this big, looked like they were like 12 inches long. And he caught a 7-pound bass 20 minutes after I caught my 6-pound bass. So I know this lake has them. I've seen a couple videos where one guy caught a 9-pounder on a spinnerbait. So the next time you see me in a fishing video, I'm going to have a scale on my boat, because I know I said, oh, this is officially my PB. It's technically, in my mind and in my heart, it's officially my personal best, but it's technically unofficial because it's not weighed. But tell me what you think. Do you think it's in the 6-pound range? Do you think it's lower than 6 pounds? Which I think you'd be crazy. But yeah, the next time you see me, definitely gonna have a scale on my boat. And I think I'm gonna start throwing bigger baits too, because I know the potential of this lake, and I really want to go for some giants this summer, the rest of the summer, because this summer I've only caught a few bass under 17, 18 inches. Everything has been pretty big, and everything I've caught has had some size to it. The pond around the corner from my house, I've caught 2 5-pounders, I've caught 4 4-pounders, all in like a 2-week span. And I'm like, these places are crazy. I need to have a scale with me so I can start weighing these fish. Maybe do a challenge video where I weigh my 5 biggest bass of the day, and see what my total weight would be if I was like fishing a tournament or something like that, or maybe measure them. If when I get a kayak, I'm gonna get a kayak next winter and start fishing it next spring, and maybe enter some kayak tournaments. Who knows? Anything's possible. This has been another episode of Fishing with Fish Gall. I'm your host Kevin. Thank you for watching, and peace out.